Nigeria is about to choose a new leader. It's Africa's most populous country and one of the world's largest oil producers. But its economy continues to reel from crisis to crisis. So, will elections make any difference? And is democracy the answer to Nigeria's woes? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Martine Dennis. Millions of Nigerians finally head to the polls on Saturday to elect a new leader after the election was postponed by a week. Now, whoever wins will have to address at least three pressing issues: the sluggish economy, security problems and corruption. It's expected to be a tight race between President Muhammadu Buhari, who's seeking a second term, and Atiku Abubakar, the main opposition candidate. Now, Buhari has promised to fight corruption, but his opponents have focused on what they see as his failure to fix the economy. The main contenders made their final appeal for votes on the last day of campaigning on Thursday. All right, let's have a quick look then at some of the key moments in Nigeria's democratic history. 15 years of military rule ended in 1999, and the first civilian to win elections, Olusegun Obasanjo, was himself a former army general. Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was next before Goodluck Jonathan became president in 2011. His time in office was widely considered to have allowed for rampant corruption. And he became the first democratically elected president to be defeated in an election 4 years later, losing to opposition candidate Muhammadu Buhari. Well, Nigeria has a population of more than 180 million people. It's also got oil, lots of it. It's Africa's largest producer of crude. But the economy consistently underperforms. A variety of reasons are given, including corruption and internal conflict with armed groups like Boko Haram. Despite its riches, Nigerians have got steadily poorer. According to a report last year by the World Poverty Clock Network, there are now more extremely poor people in Nigeria than anywhere else in the world. All right, let's introduce our guests now. In Abuja, the Nigerian capital, we have Idayat Hassan, Director of the Centre for Democracy and Development. In London, Anthony Goldman, who's CEO of Pro Media Consulting and a former senior Africa analyst at the Economist Intelligence Unit. Also in Abuja, via Skype, we have the investigative journalist Fisayo Soyombo. He was winner of the 2017 Nigerian Investigative Journalist of the Year Award. Welcome to you all. Idayat, let me come to you first, because this delay in elections has been greeted with a great deal of scepticism, hasn't it, both inside Nigeria and out. How much has this delay, would you say, eroded confidence in the actual process of democracy in Nigeria today?
Yeah, I think the delayed elections have further affected the trust of the people in democracy itself. It dampened the morale of the people. There is disappointment, and there is the belief that what is the essence of democracy, an attempt to even skew the democracy. But it's still a welcome development, as people are also in several parts of the country geared to vote in the forthcoming election scheduled for February 23rd, 2019.
Right. Fisayo, do you think it's going to have a big impact on turnout, the fact that the election has been delayed by a week?
Absolutely. It's going to have a big impact. And I say this because of the nature of voting in Nigeria. So people have to go back to where they registered. So if, for instance, you were living in the Southwest and you registered there to vote, and over the last 4 years, you had cause to relocate to another part of the country, you have to travel back, and people already made these journeys the last time. So the question is, what is the guarantee that making such journeys will be fruitful at the end of the day? So it's clear that voter apathy is already in place.
Right. And Anthony, this seems to have become a little bit of a regular occurrence, doesn't it? The last two elections were also delayed, weren't they, by some time? I mean, after 20 years of holding elections, shouldn't Nigeria be at least able to hold an election every 4 years?
Well, yes, it should, but I think it is very difficult. Nigeria, as you've indicated, has a lot of kind of infrastructure constraints, a lot of capacity issues, a lot of problems with the system in terms of the capacity of people who are in it. And I think these problems in the abstract, when you translate them into something practical, like organising an election, begin to show themselves up. The issue, I suppose, is what can you fix in a few days, which wasn't ready by this time last week. And I think that the pressure will be on the Commission to show that actually it's able to deliver on an election that meets the minimum standards. I think that there is a perception amongst the rival parties that perhaps there's been accusing each other of trying to delay the process. There is also the logistical challenge, but there's also, and I think this speaks of the culture of the cult, if you like, of mediocrity in public administration, an issue of is it possible to attract the best people to the best jobs at the right time? And the Election Commission, rather like having a kind of an awkward birth, as soon as the election's out of the way, everybody disappears, a new set of people come in, and there's a real lack of institutional memory. And I think that this creates a challenge in building up that kind of institutional strength, if you like, the pillars on which democracy sits.
And Fisayo, coming back to you, you've argued for more electronic voting. You think that the whole process should go completely digital. But in a country that can barely guarantee power supply to its people, is that really feasible? Is that the best way forward when you have these electronic machines that are now having to be rebooted because of this delay in the election?
Yes, if Nigeria is really serious about getting this done, it will be done. Don't forget, the machines, the card readers have to be reconfigured simply because they were programmed to work on a certain day from a certain time to another time. So, I mean, yes, the country's population is huge, millions of people, landmass, really big in size. So it creates constraints, but then it's something we can do. Right now, you have a system where banks have identification numbers for individuals. The Nigerian Immigration is doing the same. So if you can compile all this data and harmonize into one, it's very possible to get to a point where voting is electronic. And it's something we need to do so that we can tackle possible voter apathy. If people could vote in the comfort of their homes or offices online, the problem of people having to travel long distances to vote wouldn't arise. And it means that, I mean, God forbid, even if we had to postpone elections twice or thrice next time, it's still the same. The inconvenience is minimal. So it's something we definitely need to start looking to do.
Idayat, I'm just wondering whether all of these problems that are associated with holding elections in Nigeria actually cause people in the country to question the very system of governance, the very system by which their leaders are chosen. Does democracy actually work for a country like Nigeria with more than 350 ethnic groups in this vast country with some of the problems that we've already outlined?
There is actually no substitute to democracy, and Nigerians would at no point in time ever want to go back to a military regime. Now there is the yearning, a very strong demand for democracy. Yes, there are challenges in terms of the democracy delivering development to the people in forms of public goods and services. But the main challenge for democracy is the quality of its leaders itself, the quality of the leaders. When you have people who are mainly in office to basically enrich themselves. So politics is seen as a means of enrichment and not service to the people.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but isn't this the crucial problem not just in Nigeria, but on the continent as a whole? The fact is that in many ways, politics is determined by personality, not by policies.
No, but gradually, actually, there is beginning to evolve a change in terms of politics of personalities to go towards the politics of issues and policies in the country. But the truth of the matter is that who wins office are basically the people with the war chest. Look at the forthcoming elections on Saturday. There are 73 candidates vying for the office of the president of Nigeria on 73 different political parties' platform, offering different policy ideas, but the fact remains that the two dominant parties are the only ones heard in this contest because they have resources to mobilize and let people know about them. They have what we call political structures across the 774 local governments of Nigeria, and they are able to reach the people. Thus, they become the only option available to the people of Nigeria at the expense of the 71 other political parties.
And Anthony, I mean, a lot has been said about the political godfathers in Nigeria. I mean, it's a big money business, pretty much like it is in the United States, isn't it? I just wonder whether this is a system that is about to be unsettled in any way, given the new wave of younger voters. I mean, obviously there is a great youth bulge in Nigeria, like in the rest of the continent.
I think part of the problem with politics in Nigeria over the years has been a level of it's an industry. Every 4 years, the campaign is about money as much as it is about ideas. And when you have the number of candidates, not just for the presidency, but also thousands of people trying to get themselves elected into the National Assembly, state governors, this speaks of a thing that is as much about generating money over a few weeks period as it is about changing public administration or ideas or policies. And I think that the challenge, I think, is to find a way of engaging with young people to give people a sense of attachment to the process. There are new technologies, new ways of communications that perhaps open up some space. But I think that if you look at the pattern of elections in Nigeria, and as you say, this is 20 years since the end of military rule, the challenge is creating a democracy that goes beyond simply how governments, the effectiveness of elections. Even with a free and a fair election in 2015, level of voter participation was barely 40%, in some parts of the country significantly less than that. And I think that this is a warning sign. I think unless you can get people involved in it, if the biggest block of people, if the biggest block of voters are people who don't vote at all, then I think that this is something that should be of a concern to all of those with a genuine interest in trying to change Nigeria for the better, rather than trying to use the political process to extract funds.
And Fisayo, there is obviously now this huge swathe of young people, first-time voters in Nigeria, many of whom probably can't remember military rule. How do they feel about the scenario, about the incompetencies, as many would say, of the Electoral Commission, for instance, not being able to hold the election on time and so on? How do they feel about the state of politics in their country?
Well, the youth population feels that, largely feels that it's time to elect younger candidates. Those who are educated among them understand that Buhari is in his mid-70s, Atiku is in his early 70s. It's time for Nigeria to start looking on to giving younger candidates a chance. Whether that will happen, we have to see. We have to see, because those who are thinking this way, the majority of them are the elites, those who are educated, who've been to school, who have an idea of how systems work in other countries and want the same for Nigeria. But the basic challenge is that the mass of electorate in Nigeria are people who are in rural areas, who are in the hinterlands, people who follow politicians blindly. Buhari has supporters who've never been to school and who don't care, who just want their man to be there. Atiku has the same. So it's looking like it will be deja vu, because majority of the elites speak English on social media. Election day, they hardly go out. Meanwhile, the ones in the marketplaces, the ones in the villages are the guys who are ready to die at polling booths.
And Idayat, let's come to the challenges now, because we've identified three main challenges for whoever wins this election, and those challenges have remained pretty much the same, haven't they, throughout this 20-year period? And that, chief among them has got to be corruption, there's the economy, and then there's the security issue. I mean, Buhari, to give him some credit, has at least attempted, hasn't he, to overturn this endemic corruption for which Nigeria is well known. But he doesn't seem to have succeeded very well.
Yeah, because the problem of corruption in Nigeria goes beyond fighting political corruption. What we say Buhari has done since being voted into office in 2015 is he has waged a war against impunity. There has been little or no attempt to actually institutionalize the fight against corruption. And this will continue to determine if people in Nigeria, if the citizens will eventually benefit from the dividend of democracy. So corruption is defining this campaign. It's about the forces of who is actually more corrupt than the other. And at the same time, Nigerians do not really agree that any of the two frontline candidates and their parties are completely clean, because there are evidences from all sides to show that corruption still remains endemic. But when we move forward from the elections, the most important thing is what will Nigeria look like post March 9th, 2019, when all the elections would have been concluded. The fact remains that corruption, the number of insecurity bedeviling the country in 5 out of the 6 geopolitical zones, the economy, an attendant rise in unemployment, especially amongst the young people, will define what it will look like. And there is a lot of despondency that what we as civic actors are trying to do at this point in time is, again, to manage expectations, because there is actually no silver wand out of these problems. Nigeria lives in a global, it's in a global village itself. Insecurity will affect how it's able to improve on its economy. What happens with OPEC will largely impact on our economic shift when you look at it, that we are still over 70% oil-dependent economy.
Right. Let me take that point and put that to Anthony, because that also comes to the core of the issue, and that is, isn't it, that the Nigerian economy is so dependent upon the price of a barrel of oil that it is pretty much shattered, isn't it, the minute prices go down. What steps have been taken? What positive moves have been put in place that could possibly wean the Nigerian economy off of this destructive dependency?
Yeah, I think those three things are all linked. There's the distortions created by an economy that is over-reliant on oil for export revenue. There's the issue of corruption, and there's the broader issue, systemic issue for the rule of law and how it's applied. And I think that actually, for the Buhari government, this was something they had to deal with very early on, because the collapse in oil prices in the months after it came into office in 2015 created the kind of fiscal challenges that I think would have created huge issues of public order in many other countries that have faced basically a collapse in government revenue of about a half or even slightly more than that, because as prices more than halved, production also fell quite significantly because of security issues in the Niger Delta. Now, production has come back a little bit, the security issues have eased a little bit, but I think that what the government took away from that was the need to really make progress on the diversification of the economy. This was something that Buhari was always very keen on, and as it turned out in 2015-16, there was really no alternative but to try to find ways of injecting urgency into getting people back on the land, to turn Nigeria from a country that was importing rice to a country that was growing rice and now is close to being self-sufficient in production and also processing, not just of rice, but of a number of other agricultural products. And so if you move away from the cities in Nigeria, if you go to some of the, the smaller towns, villages and rural areas, actually there's a quite different perception of how the last 4 years have gone. And I think that there is some positivity. But of course, this is an incremental process. It took Nigeria a very long time to slip away from the country that had commercial agriculture, was able to deliver on services,
Right.
was involved in mining.
Yes.
And I think that this process of reconstruction, recalibration, will take a long time. There's no quick fix.
Fisayo, coming to you, what do you make of, and what do younger Nigerians make of what has been, I think, essentially a gentleman's agreement about switching the leadership of the country between the North and the South? At the moment, apparently, it's a Northerners' turn, and you've got two Northerners battling it out for the top job. I mean, is this something that is redundant now? I mean, do younger people feel that the country should be divided between North and South, between Muslim and Christian?
It's way even beyond the younger people. It's a sentiment that resonates across the country. Don't forget, Nigerian politics is played along the lines of ethnicity, religion, geopolitical zones. So this sentiment exists among the youth and even beyond. But the reality is that it's never going to work. I mean, right now, Buhari is campaigning and saying that if he wins in 2023, he's going to hand over to someone from the southeast. And then the same thing is being said in the southwest. So I think that those who truly follow Nigerian politics, who understand the intricacies, they know that it's just mere talk. It's just cheap talk. The politics of 2022 will determine who becomes president in 2023, regardless of the promises that are being made or the expectations that people have. For instance, Goodluck Jonathan would never have become president if his boss didn't die in office. And the dynamics changed immediately. Despite that, there was an agreement that the power should stay with the North at that time.
Yes.
The moment Jonathan became, so...
Indeed, it was hugely controversial, wasn't it? Idayat, I'm just wondering, Nigeria is often seen as being the sleeping giant of Africa. It's just hit this most depressing of statistics of having the world's largest community of extremely poor people, overtaking even India. What on earth is going wrong with Nigeria, and what do you think might help it?
I think the biggest challenge with Nigeria is a lack of inclusive economic growth. Progressively, before the country went into the economic recession, you found that at a point in time, our growth, GDP, was at over 7%. I was growing at 7%. This year, it will grow around 2% at least average from all the rates. But what continues to unveil itself is that this growth is not inclusive. So the more the richer get richer, the more the poor get poorer, which is actually a paradox in the land of plenty, really. And what will have to happen, really, for Nigeria at this point in time is to invest in its youth, in its young people, which is the next oil boom for us when we are thinking in terms of diversifying our economy. As other countries are hedging, we continue to have younger people. But the biggest challenge is also confronting these young people is the quality of education aside from unemployment. So we'll have to work a lot on improving on our human development indexes, combating corruption at all levels, not just political corruption, but illicit financial flows, and those corruption that almost every Nigerian is actually involved in, either advertently or inadvertently. Definitely there will be positive development to evolve in few years to come.
Well, thank you all very much indeed. Idayat Hassan, Anthony Goldman and Fisayo Soyombo, thank you all very much indeed. We've just touched on what is a really large issue, I know, but thank you so much indeed for a really interesting conversation. Now, if you want to see this programme again, remember you can always go to our website, aljazeera.com. Should you want more discussion, you can go to our Facebook page. That is facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. There's always the Twitter sphere as well. At AJ Inside Story, I'm at Martine Dennis. From the whole team here in Doha, it's bye for now and thank you for watching.